Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Racha Kodash. This is an update to 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 5, which I had through the Spirit just did a lesson on concerning a question that Hassad from the Sakari had asked me. And even after more close examination of the scripture, there's even more evidence, I could say it that way, that is coming out concerning this particular scripture. Now, keep in mind that the Apostle Paul was an avid watcher, and he got into a lot of those Olympic games and the boxing and the poets of the time, and he would use a lot of those different events as far as to explain and teach the truth, because the people that he was sent to were who? The Israelite foreigners, who were all into the gladiatorial events and the different chariot races and the running and the different, things that they did. So after close examination of this 2 Timothy 2 and 5, when you read through it says, and if a man also strive for masteries. Now the word man doesn't appear in this particular chapter or this particular verse in this chapter. The word for man is anthropos. The word that does appear is the word tis. And the word tis means a certain one, sometime, a while. So particular someone, somebody. It doesn't necessarily have to be just a man in general, right? But it says if a man also strive for masteries. Now, when we look at the word strive, this is the telling of this verse or chapter. The word for strive is athleo. Athleo is where you get the word for athlete. From athlos, a contest in the public lists. And who are the ones that contended in the public? The athletes. So it says to engage in a contest, contend in public games, contend for a prize, to endure, suffer. So a striving was a fighting for or a contending for a particular crown. And that crown was dealing with the corruptible crown, which some of you brothers already know where this is going in the spirit. So the Apostle Paul was using these athletic games, to show, the position that he was, explaining to these Israelite foreigners. So he says, so when we go back, it says, and if a man strive for the mastery, so if an athlete is striving for the masteries, yet is he not crowned except he strive lawfully. Yeah, because at the end of the day, he had to do and follow the regulations of the particular game that he was going through. When we look up the word lawfully, nominos, lawfully, agreeable to the law, properly. Right? And then if you look at that for face value, say, oh, you got to keep the laws. You got to keep the laws. Where your fringes at, brother? Now let's examine this scripture in the NLT. And it says, and athletes cannot win the prize unless they follow the rules. See? So pretty much what the Apostle Paul was doing here was he was making reference to soldiers. So soldiers don't get tied up in the affairs of civilian life, for then they cannot please the officer who enlisted them. And that goes back into, let's go to the KJV again. It says, no man that warreth entangleth himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who hath chosen him to be a soldier. And All of this ties to 1 Corinthians 9 and 24. Don't you realize? Well, actually, let's go to the KJV. Know ye not that they which run in the race run all, but one receiveth the prize? So run that you may obtain. And every man that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but we an incorruptible crown. And pretty much, you have your athletes that follow a particular curriculum. They abstain from certain things to show discipline so that they can win a prize of corruption. And that's pretty much what 2 Timothy is saying. It's saying the same exact thing that the Apostle Paul was saying here in 1 Corinthians 9, 24 and 25. And when we go to the NLT on this one, don't you realize that in a race everyone runs, but only one person gets the prize? So run to win. All athletes are disciplined in their training. They do it to win a prize that will fade away, but we do it for an eternal prize. So pretty much the Apostle Paul was using these references of these athletes to show to show how we run this race to win the prize. As the scriptures say, fight the good fight of faith to receive that crown. You see? So that's pretty much what that was speaking about. It really had nothing to do with the law. The law as far as what they call the Mosaic law. It had something to do with the athletic events that were taking place. And he was using that, exactly, speaking in metaphors. He was using that as a, example to get the point across to these Israelite foreigners this is why he told them, "O foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you? That you have you begun in the faith, and now are you perfect now by the flesh?" Because though there were certain of the Pharisees and them that were righteous, that were trying to push the law upon the Israelite foreigners. And this is why the Apostle Paul said, he came back and said, he was upset because he was jealous over the Israelite foreigners, but his whole thing was, let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. Everything comes to every man at a certain particular point, but the thing is that when we're dealing with the law itself, we cannot be justified by the keeping of the law. All right, now let's go to the let me see right here. Boom. It says all athletes, right? It says everyone who competes in the game. Now, exercise self-control in all things. Let's go here. Nope, not that one, Salakia. Who competes. The word there is agonizomahi. Agonizomahi. To enter a contest, contend in the gymnastic games, because he was speaking to Israelite foreigners that went back to the Greek Empire. You see? So these were what? Athletes that would compete in these particular games to contend with adversaries, fight. Metaphorically, to contend, struggle with difficulties and dangers, to endeavor with strenuous zeal, strive to obtain something. And this is what he was using as an example, or as the brother put, speaking in metaphors, to being able to show self-discipline in the truth in order to receive the prize of salvation. It had nothing to do with keeping the law 100%, because we can't keep the law 100%. So this was just something I was just kind of looking through. I was sitting down watching TV for a moment, and just something just kept compelling me to look up the scripture here in 2 Timothy again. And I said, well, I wonder what it says in the NIV or the NLT. So I went there, and lo and behold, and athletes cannot win the prize unless they follow the rules. But when you read it in the KJV, it says, And if a man also strive for masteries, yet is he not crowned except he strive lawfully. So automatically this is a ace in the hole for them, for the law. It had nothing to do with the law itself. It had something to do with these different athletes and the games that they played and how they had to strive lawfully, meaning they had to follow the rules. But the rules of salvation is what? Through Yahushua. Can't keep the law 100%. That's not justification. Man is not built like that. We're not built that way, you know? So I just wanted to just do a little quick update on that. I was going to save it, but you know what? At the end of the day, we're not here, deceptively. We're here in sincerity. So we just whatever the Spirit gives us, we put it out there. You could accept it or not. This is of no consequence to us whether you do or not, because at the end of the day, you accept it, you will be delivered. You don't accept it, then you got to take it up with Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Shalom.